In some faraway, beautiful estate, an 8-year-old boy, Arasu Gawariku, haughtily addresses his young maid as an old hag and demands that she bring some spare clothes since his previous ones got dirty. The maid, Makita Mashiro, who is in her late teens, expresses astonishment as she cannot believe that he did that again. However, she is prepared as usual and instantly provides him with fresh ones. But he fumes up on seeing a flabby t-shirt with a ridiculous cartoon character printed in the middle. Honestly, the cartoon probably filed a complaint for emotional damage. He wonders whether she is pulling his leg deliberately. But Mashiro aloofly mentions that he has to wear those clothes as a punishment since he is always soiling his clothes. Arisu yells in a fit of anger, calling her an old hag again. She politely requests him not to call her old hag anymore. This boy's vocabulary really begins and ends with old hag, doesn't it? He ill-manneredly turns his face away and states that it doesn't matter, but she calmly insists that it does. Mashiro understands that the young master cannot call her by her name, since that may seem as if they are lovers. Risu freaks out on hearing such a ridiculous thing, and cannot remember saying anything like that. She reminds him that when they first met a month ago, he said those words, "Memory of a goldfish, but confidence of a king, truly unstoppable." After a pause, she insists that he must call her by her name. Arasu's heart begins to thump faster. Sensing his hesitation, she emphasizes that if he doesn't, then she won't be able to become his future wife. On finding solitude after a few hours, Mashiro convinces herself that his desire to marry her is just an adorable child's promise. She is certain that he will forget that as soon as he grows up. Spoiler: character development is running late, stuck in traffic. She really hopes that he stops calling her an old hag. She believes that his arrogance needs to be fixed in his early years, or else he won't be able to make any friends forever. Mashiro knows that right now, she is the closest to him. Suddenly, while walking down the corridor, she overhears him trying to call out her name in his room. It's just him wrestling with his brain cells, both of them. Puzzled, she takes a quick peek in his room and finds him trying hard to call her name. But when he is unable to do so after a few attempts, he seems quite embarrassed and frustrated. Mashiro is impressed by his trying so hard to say her name. Meanwhile, an agitated Arisu buries his face in the pillow, regretting being so bossy instead of honest. Character growth spotted. Oh wait, false alarm. However, he is adamant about practicing more and being able to voice the name of the person he loves. He is not aware that Mashiro has been eavesdropping on him the whole time. A shadow appears on her face that is quickly replaced by a flushed smile. She enters his room, sits beside him, and then ruffles his hair. Operation Make Him Less Bratty is showing a tiny bit of progress. The poor lad is taken aback, but she affectionately assures him not to rush things up, and is certain that one day he will call her by her name. A wide-eyed Arisu stares at her flushed face for a moment, but then bluntly declares that he will be able to do that by the next day. She giggles and nods. However, even after a decade, Arisu is unable to pronounce her name, and instead of Mashiro, blurts out Marshmallow. At this point, she should legally rename herself as a treat. Mashiro stares at him in disbelief, but he flares up in sheer anger and tells her to shut up, blaming himself for not religiously calling her by her name. She terms it quite bizarre because, according to her calculations, he shouldn't even have a crush on her anymore. She recalls how he was so keen on marrying her and stuck to her like glue. Love life status. Error 404, name not found. But now he has stopped clinging to her, so she believes that he might now have a new girlfriend. She feels kind of lonely, but understands that now he has grown up. On the other hand, Arisu hesitantly knocks on her door, intending to finally call her by her name. He believes that it is time they got married as promised earlier. However, the wacky lad still cannot call her name. Romance level, 100%. Brain level, Windows XP not responding. One day, while watching TV, young Arisu sees a street interview where girls are asked about their prospective lovers. According to the girls, tall guys are definitely cooler. Arisu screams in frustration, wondering whether being short is a sin. Next, he grouchily addresses Mashiro as old hag and queries her about ways to get taller. Being short may not be a crime, but he's ready to hire a lawyer just in case. Mashiro is slightly surprised by his question, but she notices that he seems very serious about that matter. She quickly advises him to spin around 100 times to shoot up for sure the next day. Deep down, she is certain that he will religiously follow her advice. True to her word, the insane boy begins to swirl furiously while she chuckles in amusement. He's basically trying to generate height through centrifugal force. He catches her grinning and angrily probes her about that. Thoroughly amused, she admits that she was fibbing earlier. He becomes super mad at her for being so careless and calls her an old hag. Yet again, since he can't stop spinning, Mashiro has to tell him that he is looking in the wrong direction while she is behind him. At this point, gravity is his main enemy. She cannot help jeering at him for being easily beguiled by her. Indeed, Arasou appears quite adorable despite being furious. However, he throws a tantrum for being called cute instead of cool, which reminds her of an upset puppy. Next, she places her hand on his shoulder and genuinely advises her to drink milk to grow taller. She also advises him to have 3 nutritionally balanced meals, lots of sleep, and exercise. Excitedly, Erasou pours himself a glass of milk, and she wonders if he truly understood her earlier words. She recalls his mother mentioning how he hated milk. Love makes you do crazy things, like drinking it voluntarily. He takes a big sip, but hesitates before swallowing, finally gulping it down while emphasizing that he's drinking, despite disliking it. Mashiro tells him not to force himself, and wonders about his sudden urge to grow taller. The drama in that single sip could win an award. Erasou pauses, remarking that sometimes men choose to remain silent, and snorts in amusement. Then begins his mission grow taller. Clever, Mashiro manipulates him into following routines, convincing him they'll speed up his growth. Soon, the selfish young master becomes obedient, doing homework on time and eating greens without complaint. Growth fueled by pure gullibility. Even his bedtime improves, much to his mother's relief. But just a week later, his old grouchy self returns. He gruffly calls Mashiro an old hag and complains that he hasn't grown taller yet. He throws yet another tantrum, wailing that he has been trying too hard and still hasn't reached adult size. She calmly tries to explain that it is difficult to shoot up that fast, as humans usually grow at a slow pace. Breaking news. Height doesn't come with express shipping. She assures him that in 10 years he will certainly grow past her. He sullenly thinks that a decade is a long time, but he challenges her, after 10 years, when he is bigger, he will show her how cool he is, and her heart will skip a beat. Cliffhanger alert, height-based romance coming soon. She assures him that she is certainly looking forward to that time. Skip a beat, the medical community is screaming somewhere. She grins, thinking that as she is working here only as a part-timer, she might quit in a year. However, after 10 years, Mashiro is still in that mansion, and once when she is trying to reach out for a book on the top shelf, Erasou comes to her assistance and easily pulls out the book for her. It appears that he has grown nearly a foot taller than her. She expresses his gratitude and he turns around with a smug smile, thinking how cool he looks. He's been waiting a decade just to reach that shelf with swagger. When he is gone, she realizes that her heart did skip a beat slightly, and that he is no longer a spoiled little puppy anymore. One morning, Mashiro knocks on Arisu's bedroom door to wake him before he's late for school. When there's no response, she assumes he's still asleep. Sure enough, Erasou is dozing off, tossing and turning in bed. A smile softens her face as she watches his angelic, sleepy expression. He looks like a peaceful prince, who will turn into a gremlin the moment he wakes. She calls his name and greets him. Still half asleep, he mumbles a reply while rubbing his eyes. Mashiro reminds him it's already time for breakfast. He stretches, then raises his arms expectantly, wanting her to carry him to the table. Somewhere, his pride is packing its bags. Remaining unfazed, she tells him to walk on his own and pulls open the curtains, humming as sunlight fills the room. He grumbles about how cheerful she is always in the morning. She simply says that mornings make her feel refreshed. When he gives her a curious look, she adds that seeing his cute, cheeky face while he sleeps is what puts her in such a good mood. Nothing like being insulted with compliments to start the day. His mood darkens at being called cute, and Mashiro, amused, thinks he could easily be mistaken for a chipmunk right now. But he lashes out at her for calling him cute. When she tries to protest, he angrily cuts her off in the middle and is adamant on being called cool instead. She smugly points out that she doesn't want to lie. Honesty is brutal, but he walked right into that one. For a moment, he is speechless, but then moodily orders her not to wake him in the morning again. She insists that waking him up in the morning is her job, but he yells at her to shut up. Next, he gruffly demands she hand over her alarm clock, and she does that readily. He laughs triumphantly, claiming that now he can wake up on his own. Confidence level? 10 out of 10. Capability level? Pending results. He mocks her for not having an alarm clock anymore and hopes that now she will be late every morning. She simply pulls out her phone, indicating its built-in alarm clock feature. Erasou gives her a devilish stare. The next morning, Mashiro knocks on his door to see whether he is awake or else she is willing to, but her words get stuck in her mouth when Arsu perkily opens the door, claiming that he is already awake because of that alarm clock. Mashiro cannot help notice that eerie brightness on his face. So, 6 years passed, and in those years, Erasou had woken up every morning without her help. It is revealed that he is now in his 3rd year of middle school. He evolved from a sleepy pillow slug to a functioning human. She is glad because of his self-reliance, but sometimes she feels lonely as she misses glancing at his cute sleeping face. Soon, she slurps on her roasted green tea in delight. After that, she enters Arisu's room to check on him and finds him dozing off peacefully on a couch. She chuckles, thinking that some things will never change. Plot twist. Independence has an off switch called Comfortable Couch. Suddenly, his eyes pop open, and on seeing Mashiro, he becomes embarrassed. But she pretends not to notice him and is busy with her usual chores. A stunned Erasou stares at her, humming casually, wondering why she is always in a good mood every morning. Spoiler. She fuels herself with roasted tea and making fun of him. A terrified young Arasou clings to Mashiro during a horror show, much to Mashiro's amusement. He freaks out when she openly offers to hug him. He completely denies being shaken and reasons that he was trying to scare off the ghost. Erasou even slides away from her, swiftly claiming that he wasn't trying to cling to her. Yes, nothing scares ghosts like trembling like a washing machine on spin mode. He emphasizes that he was just trying to calm her down, thinking that she might have gotten terrified. Soon, another ghost of a young dancing boy pops up, scaring the wits out of him. Shivering insanely, he clings tightly to Mashiro's skirt. She humorously wonders whether this is how he scares away the ghost. Arisu's pride, already in the basement. Thankfully, the exorcist dispels all of them, and the TV show ends. Mashiro excuses herself and heads towards her room, but Erasou follows her, offering to accompany her since it is late at night. He suggests playing games together all night. However, she enters the bathroom instead and sarcastically offers him to join her. The poor boy speedran the embarrassment like it was a horror speedrun. He quickly hops out, blushing furiously, and yells in sheer frustration that entering the bath with her is quite embarrassing. She giggles affectionately and orders him to go to his room. He begins to shake like a leaf, admitting his fear of being alone. He begs her not to leave him alone since both his parents are away for work. For someone trying to look cool earlier, this is a big plot twist. Mashiro stares at him warmly, leans forward and pats him. To his alarm, she gives him a tight hug. She melts over him immensely on seeing the rare sight of a timid little Erasou. He shrieks at her for treating him like a kid. He wants to be a manly hero, but his fear settings are stuck on toddler. Finally, she asks him to wait for her nearby while she takes a bath. He agrees to stay in the dressing room. He makes himself comfortable on a chair and insists she keep on talking to him. Arsu suggests playing word chain and begins the game by calling out a word, seagull. He's fighting ghosts using vocabulary, bold strategy. However, he freaks out when he gets no response from her side. He probes her for a reply, but Mashiro is unable to do so since she is still thinking. After she is done, it is his turn to take a bath, but he continues playing word chain with her. He suggests the word egg, but something mischievous is cooking in Mashiro's mind. Egg was the wrong answer. Now she is the jump scare. She decides not to respond to him. The poor boy is freakingly scared, wondering whether she has abandoned him. However, she giggles thinking about his adorableness. He yells like a madman, urging her to reply, but Mashiro is having too much fun. Emotional damage delivered with love and giggles. After a while, when he is dressed, he walks by her side holding her arm tightly, and suddenly she boos at him, making him jump out of his skin. He screams at her furiously for scaring him like that. She realizes how a boyfriend feels when going on a courage test with his girlfriend. Her comment goes above his head, but she doesn't try to explain to him as well. Instead, she watches him fondly. Meanwhile, Erasou still thinks he's the brave one here. Mashiro teases Erasou for clinging to her all day, calling him a spoiled kid. Stunned and blushing, he throws a tantrum, insisting she's misunderstood and demanding she forget it. She laughs, refusing. Memory wipe request denied. Embarrassment permanently saved. When she suggests another horror show, he immediately declines. Later, he punishes her by ordering her to stay with him until he falls asleep, which she gladly accepts, though he forbids her from watching him sleep, a rule she finds amusing. 10 years later, Mashiro sneaks into Arisu's room and finds him still panicking during horror shows, desperately pretending they're not scary. Mature Arisu still runs on 1% courage, 99% denial. She suddenly boos behind him, making him jump, then bursts out laughing at the familiar sight. When he comments on her love for horror, she admits she's always liked it, but now enjoys it for two reasons: horror itself and his scaredy cat side. Flustered, he snaps at her to shut up. If coolness were a test, he just turned in a blank sheet. Mashiro accidentally buys orange juice instead of apple juice, earning a disbelieving sloppy from Erasou. She thanks him for drinking it anyway, but he smirks, saying he's getting used to the old hag and expects her to get used to him too. He talks big, but would combust if dinner were on the line. When she warns that the next old hag remark will cost him dinner, he panics and apologizes, admitting it's the side of her he still isn't used to. It's been a month since Mashiro began working as a live-in maid and junior college student. Despite her charm, she's a bit of a klutz, and when Erasou keeps chewing his straw, she scolds him, saying it doesn't suit the world's coolest young master. He explodes in embarrassment, while his mother smiles, realizing Mashiro's learned how to handle him. Nothing humbles a cool young master faster than being caught chewing plastic in public. When Mashiro announces she's heading out for groceries, Erasou insists on tagging along. On the way, they run into her college friends, who greet her warmly. Wait, Mashiro has a life outside serving me? Impossible, he thinks. Her friends invite her to a cafe, praising the egg sandwiches she once raved about. The true villain here, an egg sandwich with too much charm. Erasou sulks in silence as Mashiro chats, and when they part, she teases him that his cheeks might burst from pouting. If pouting were an Olympic sport, he'd have a gold streak longer than the checkout line. When she pokes his cheeks playfully, he storms off, forcing her to chase him. At the grocery store, his jealousy boils over. He demands to know who those people were and why she's so close to them. Grocery aisle meltdown, now discounted in the drama section. She calmly explains they're just classmates, but he sobs that they know things about her, like her favorite cafe and sandwich that he doesn't. Shoppers assume they're a quarreling couple. To comfort him, she promises to bring her photo album next time and share her college stories. Applause from strangers. He cried. They cheered. An icon. Mashiro gently reminds him of all their shared memories. Meals, homework, daily life. Things her friends don't know. Her words soothe him until she cheekily adds that her friends also don't know about their public supermarket spat. She laughs, pats his head, and he sulks in embarrassed defeat. A relationship built on snacks, homework, and public humiliation? Beautiful. 10 years later, Mashiro fondly recalls how he used to get jealous whenever someone knew her better. Adult Erasou denies it furiously, his voice betraying him. His maturity is hanging by a thread, and the thread is jealousy-flavored. She giggles, saying he's not the jealous type anymore, then mentions her college friends invited her to a reunion. Erasou flinches, envy flickering across his face, until she casually adds the party was canceled. He explodes again, yelling at her for bringing it up in the first place. Translation: I panicked for nothing, and now I'm angry about that too. A 24-year-old Mashiro spots a stray hair on a 13-year-old Erasou and rushes to fix it. But he quickly dashes away, leaving her completely shocked. She wonders about his bizarre behavior. Meanwhile, Erasou pants heavily on finding solitude. Puberty, where a single hair becomes a national emergency. Mashiro expresses her concern to his mother that he might be avoiding her. His mother, Ruriko, explains that it might be possible since he is a middle schooler now. She probes Mashiro about the matter further, so she reveals shyly that earlier they were close enough to often hold hands. But nowadays, the more she tries to approach him, the greater he avoids her. Congratulations, he has evolved into a socially awkward Pokemon. Ruriko agrees that Mashiro is rightfully concerned, and he is trying to avoid her. Meanwhile, a sullen Erasou is plopped on his stomach, thinking that whenever he is with Mashiro, his heart races wildly. Even though he has this urge to be around her due to infatuation, once he is closer to her, he cannot control himself and begins to fidget like a jellyfish. He admits to himself that it is tough to be around her. Love. The only condition where a jellyfish response is considered adorable. He recalls how different it was earlier when they used to behave like overs. He recalls how he once got scared when she chatted with her friends and would hold her hand so they wouldn't get separated, and how she'd smile, touched by his kindness. Now, he's far too embarrassed to even think of doing that again. Once a fearless toddler, now defeated by romantic proximity. He is afraid that she might despise him because of his avoidance. Unconsciously, he glances at his handmade marriage countdown calendar, and it appears that he still has nearly 5 years until his ultimate goal of marrying Mashiro. He becomes tearful out of emotion. He recalls how he had proposed to Mashiro to be his bride when he was still a child. Love so strong he made an Excel sheet for it. Respect. He is glad that the promise from that time is still intact. He plops on his bed in a frenzy, impatiently wanting to get hitched to her. Meanwhile, Mashiro discusses with Ruriko about Erasou proposing to her a long time ago. She recalls how often he'd declare, "I'll make you my bride," and how she'd play along, thinking it was just a child's promise. Spoiler, it wasn't mere to the little groomzilla. Ruriko scolds Mashiro for acting without thinking, and smiling, she admits Erasou hasn't seemed interested in her lately, perhaps because he's found someone special at school. Meanwhile, he's busy daydreaming about a destination wedding in Hawaii when a sharp knock and Mashiro's voice snaps him back to reality. His heart skips a beat, but he stays silent. Mentally honeymooning while physically panicking? Teen romance in one sentence. From outside, she casually announces she's heading out for groceries. Surprised she's still talking to him after being ignored, Erasou realizes it's tough work and decides to help, also seeing a golden chance to turn it into a date. Romantic level, buying vegetables together while sweating profusely. He bursts from his room, insisting on going along. Mashiro, puzzled, wonders why he's tagging along after avoiding her. At the bustling market, she notes the unusually large crowd. He guesses there's a festival at the nearby shrine. Nothing screams love like panicking in public beside your crush. Flustered, he hesitates to hold her hand, but suddenly offers it so they won't get separated. Normally, he'd never do something so cringeworthy. Shocked, Mashiro double-checks, but he grabs her hand and pulls her along, face burning red. She beams. It's been ages since they last held hands. Then, overwhelmed, he abruptly lets go and bolts off, leaving her realizing his embarrassment had reached critical mass. 5 years later, Mashiro reflects that they'd been close during his elementary years, drifted apart in middle school, and grown close again by the time he reached high school. Time heals everything, except teenage awkwardness. She is glad that his rebellious phase is over and hopes that he will hold her hand normally once again. He grits his teeth in sheer nervousness and calls her an idiot for thinking like that. In reality, he is all abashed because of her sudden request. She beams understandingly, thinking that might not be easy for him. Love language, calling someone an idiot while blushing tomato red. During summer vacations, under the bright summer sun, young Erasou squeals with joy, eager to build a sandcastle in the backyard. Mashiro joins in, and together they laugh and play in the sand. After a while, she realizes that they both have soiled themselves, but he mentions that at least they have made the sandcastle. The price of architecture, smelling like a dusty potato. She notices that, despite being sweaty and smelly, Erasou is completely absorbed in his sandcastle. Finally, she orders him to wrap up since it is time to do his vacation homework. He hysterically refuses to give up since he is adamant about making his black castle larger. She is greatly amused by the name since it is made up of white sand. If you can't change the color, change the branding. He insists that black seems cooler. On hearing that, she excitedly hops into the sandbox to help him build a big black castle. He sarcastically comments on her being too serious. Later, she admits having so much fun that she lost track of time. 2 engineers, 0 hygiene, creativity wins again. He compliments her for being a castle-building expert. Then she ponders that although she wants him to wash up first, he is too slow and bad at washing up. And even she wants to bathe quickly. She comes up with a suggestion that they both should bathe together. She beamingly offers to wash him. The poor lad is flabbergasted on hearing that, and despite his protests, she drags him along. In this way, they both end up in the same bathtub. First, she checks the water's temperature, and when it is perfect, she rushes to bring his rubber ducks to play with. Despite being in a denial phase, he is tempted to hop in the tub. Emotional crisis, age 7, dignity versus rubber duck. Next, she offers to shampoo his hair. She instructs him to close his eyes while she lathers him up. His heart pounds heavily while bathing with his future bride. He has mixed feelings, being happy and embarrassed at the same time. This boy is living a full romance arc before middle school. As she scrubs him, Erasou is reminded of washing her dog at home. When she finishes, Erasou glows like a star, and even Mashiro feels refreshingly clean. Noticing her boldness in sharing the bath, he tries to be a man and stare without embarrassment. Mission failed in 3 seconds. His eyes wander over her body, then, overwhelmed with shame, he splashes water and declares the situation scandalous. She teases him for being shy and suggests playing with Mr. Ducks. At the sound, one of his eyes pops open. As she hands him the toy, he tries to act cool while reaching for it, but accidentally touches her chest. Panicking, he yells for her to put on clothes. She giggles, pointing out one can't wear clothes in a bath. Laughing, she admits that from yard play to bath time, there was never a dull moment with him. Mashiro, sheepish but honest, admits he had just as much fun, even if his quest for maturity turned into a physics lesson. Soon she sprays water on his face by creating a water cannon using her fingers. Impressed, he urges her to teach him that technique. Later, he even helps her blow dry her hair. Friendship level. Hair salon access granted. Late at night, Ruruko returns home and finds them chilling in the lounge. She wonders whether they are finished with the homework. After 10 years, nostalgia strikes Mashiro when she finds the same shirt that was worn by Erasou while playing in the yard. She even recalls the fun bath time they had together. Meanwhile, Erasou is like, burn that shirt before she mentions bath again. An agitated Erasou grills her for still having that shirt. She winks at him slyly and wonders whether he wants to do that again. She recalls how he thought the whole affair was scandalous. But she understands beamingly that now he has his reservations about being an adult. Adulting step number 1. Deny all past cuteness. On the other hand, a flushed Erasou secretly admits that he wants to bathe with her too, but nothing comes out of his mouth. He dashes away in a frenzy and repeatedly calls her an idiot. She realizes that he is still the same despite being a grown-up. Big guy, bigger feelings, zero chill. An 8-year-old Arasugawa Reiku, a second grader, is taunted at school for being rich and pressured for allowance. He fights back. Typical behavior that leaves him friendless. On the way home, he sighs in regret, thinking, I'm rich, but my wallet isn't. He also blames his classmates for misunderstanding his situation. Despite his wealth, his allowance is only 200 yen. Arriving at his enormous mansion, he announces himself, only to be met with silence. His father works overseas, and his mother, once a stay-at-home mom, now works full-time. The mansion echoes emptily, a lonely reminder that wealth doesn't equal companionship. On the bright side, he thinks he can snack before homework, but his mother has already posted a strict note on the fridge. Snacks only after homework. The next day, his mother announces a maid has been hired. Excited, Erasou initially hopes for a playmate, but Ruruko clarifies that the maid is for housework, not fun. Puffing up in protest, he refuses the idea. Suddenly, Mashiro enters with a dazzling smile. Love at first sight, panic at second, and Erasou is sprinting away by third. Mesmerized, he stares blankly. Mashiro offers a handshake, but he panics and bolts, leaving her anxious. Ruruko, however, knows he's just overwhelmed. CPU overheat from social interaction, force shutdown. Mashiro smiles at his adorableness, while Ruruko scolds him for being spoiled and grumpy from being teased at school. She notes he secretly craves companionship, wondering if Mashiro will play with him. Essentially, a grumpy cat longing for head pats. A confused Mashiro is quickly redirected by Ruruko to her room. Excited by the job, she sees it as an opportunity to earn a salary while reducing her boarding expenses as a live-in maid. She plans to be a maid in the mornings and evenings and will attend junior college in the afternoons. As she comes out in her uniform, he finds a clean and sparkling Erasou waiting for her. He leveled up from Dust Gremlin to Shiny Gremlin in one cleaning session. Excitedly, he offers Ol to play with Mashiro, addressing her as Old Hag for the first time. She notices how he is talking down while looking up. She firmly emphasizes calling her by her proper name, and a flustered Erasou can only nod. He stutters that name-calling feels like lovers, and it is very embarrassing for him. Kids already practicing romance incorrectly, a promising future disaster. A shocked Mashiro realizes that he might be cute. Looking at her stunned expression, he screams at her for making fun of him. She realizes that his mother was right, and he is actually quite arrogant. But then she leans forward and cheerfully pats his head, proclaiming that she likes that he's cute. However, he roughly wards her away by slapping her hand and telling her not to treat him like a kid. Mashiro is taken aback by his weird attitude, but she tries to pacify him with a big smile. Still, he warns her not to treat him like a pet as well. He screams at her and emphasizes that she won't be forgiven if she doesn't entertain him. He doesn't want to be a kid or a pet. Truly a free-range Erasou. She happily agrees, so an exhausted Erasou plops on his bed but grinning widely since he had fun in ages. He contentedly rolls over making plans for the days to come. 10 years later, a grown-up Erasou watches Mashiro, cheerfully busy with her chores, and realizes he's never truly been alone. Lost in thoughts of the future, a wide grin spreads across his face, knowing he won't be alone then either. From no friends to one crush-made roommate, a strategic improvement. Mashiro notices him smiling and probes him about that. His heart skips a beat at being caught like that, so he turns his flushed face away, explaining that he is just trying to exercise his facial muscles. An amused Mashiro doubts that, though. Ah yes, the rare romantic cardio. 17-year-old high school senior Erasou, once called arrogant, has grown more mature. One day, his childhood friend Seta suggests cleaning the classroom. Smugly, Erasou agrees, marking a shift from too cool to clean to meh, fine. Seta notes he still seems snooty, but Arsu has finally made a friend. When Seta asks if he has a girlfriend, Erasou is caught off guard. Blushing, he admits he assumed his charm made him popular, and then reveals he already has a fiancée, showing Mashiro's photo on his phone. Seta, stunned by her beauty, suspects it's an internet image, but Erasou insists he took it himself. He adds that tomorrow is his 18th birthday, the marriageable age, and he plans to propose to Mashiro, lad skipping high school romance and jumping straight to a mortgage. Seta is shocked to hear his intention. Erasou doesn't stop at revealing his fiancée. He rambles about college, inheriting his father's company, owning a huge house, kids, and a giant dog. Seta thinks he's lost his mind and tries to sneak out, but Arasou catches him, demanding help with his second proposal. Surprised to hear a rare please, Seta reluctantly agrees. Curious, Seta asks about the term. Arasou explains that 10 years ago as a child, he tried to propose to Mashiro, envisioning her as his adult bride. Nervous, he accidentally insulted her. A toddler's meltdown turned first proposal. A flashback shows him confessing his love, only to be devastated when she says she'll leave in a year. Erasou dramatically claims he was burning in hell, earning Seta's amused admiration for his imagination. Later, a TV show about marriage inspires Arasou to secure his bond with Mashiro. He spends 5 minutes planning a proposal, but nerves make him freeze and fumble. Now, he practices with Seta, pretending he's proposing to Mashiro. Seta, unwilling substitute bride, meekly says yes, prompting Erasou to scold him for lacking her playful spirit. When Seta suggests stopping, Erasou lashes out, insisting he can't be abandoned mid-proposal. Left alone, he takes his practice to a park, still stumbling over her name. Practicing proposals in public parks? Totally normal behavior. While he is practicing, Mashiro pops up suddenly and cheerfully calls out to him. A shaken Arasou blurts out, "Did you hear?" To which an amused Mashiro responds that she hasn't done anything to her hair. He is relieved to learn that she hasn't caught the whiff. The next day, both Ruriko and Mashiro are ready to celebrate his birthday. He's safe, for now. Mashiro pops a party popper and wishes him happy birthday. She is in tears as she cannot believe that her arrogant young master is already 18. Ruriko remarks that the arrogant part hasn't changed yet. Still, time flies. As the moment arrives, his heart begins to pound heavily. Warning. Proposal cutscene loading. Please wait. Noticing his flushed face and rare warm smile, she wonders if he's moved. After the party, he calls her over. Nervous, he mumbles incoherently. Far from the plan to lead her to the yard for a romantic, breezy proposal? Summoning his courage, he spins around and boldly asks her to marry him, now that he's an adult. Great delivery. Wrong location. Again. After he is done, his mind goes blank as he realizes that he has proposed in the hallway again. As Mashiro remains dumbstruck, he convinces himself to stay positive that at least she affirmed to him 10 years ago, and now he has just proposed to her properly. He is so caught up in this whole proposal drama that he remains oblivious to her emotional state. Meanwhile, Mashiro cannot believe that he actually remembered after all those years. Plot twist. The hallway is now their official engagement zone. From Mashiro's point of view, she recalls, casually affirming to Arisu's childish proposal a decade ago. And currently she remains in a stupor, staring at him, breathing triumphantly as if won a challenging battle. She wasn't expecting that the promise she had made a decade ago is still valid, as she had treated it as childish nonsense. Considering her silence as her affirmation, he decides to submit the papers, hold a ceremony, and then head to Hawaii. Nothing like a surprise wedding to remind you that kids remember everything, especially the embarrassing promises. Mashiro finds herself in hot water, as he has been steadfast in his goal for all those years. She anxiously ponders that if he finds out that she has been toying with him at that time, he will shut himself in until he dies. But she has always considered him to be a cute, cheeky kid. She requests him for some time for the wedding. Ah yes, the classic, "I need a week to escape my decade-old engagement" move. He nearly bursts into tears as he queries her about how much time she requires. She requests that he grant her 7 days so that, in the meantime, she can think of a polite way to refuse him without hurting his feelings. He sniffles in disappointment but agrees to wait. His snobbish tone returns as he assumes that she might be going through marriage blues and needs time to prepare herself. He's already acting like a husband who knows exactly what's wrong with his wife. Confidence, level 100. He believes that he has waited for 10 years, so a week is nothing for him. He is confident that she will marry him and no one else. When she appears puzzled, he reminds her that she was supposed to leave in a year after joining, but she stayed even after her graduation. She explains that Ruriko offered her a full-time job after graduation. He's connecting the dots like a detective who already decided the culprit is love. He cheekily pulls out another string about her inability to grab another partner for 10 years despite being popular. She thoughtfully reasons that whenever someone confessed to her, young Erasou's face flashed before her. A sudden realization hits her that she has probably even been waiting for 10 years to pass. She coos delightfully, and a flustered Erasou urges her to spill out her feelings. Plot twist: turns out she was the loyal one all along, without even realizing it. Secretly, she admits that she never analyzed her feelings in those 10 years and has been living thoughtlessly. She looks at him with a flushed face and agrees to marry him. And so, Erasou bursts into rivers, spilling out his feelings while Mashiro tries to calm him down. But Erasou is hit by a storm again when Mashiro points out that he cannot get married right away. Yeah, but also no emotional whiplash speedrun. She reminds him that he is a senior preparing for his exams and promises him that after he graduates, they will marry. But she allows him to date her till then. When he agrees, she urges him to call her by her name, leaving him completely baffled. She realizes that they still have to cross many hurdles yet. Level 1 of dating unlocked. Saying her name without combusting. A grown-up Erasou speaks about the beautiful weather, finding the whole world radiant around him. Mashiro notices that he is acting quite weirdly. In other words, he is overly bubbly that day. She is hit by nostalgia when she recalls an 8-year-old Erasou, delightfully claiming that Mr. Sun was celebrating for him. As he keeps on jabbering merrily, she notices his comparatively broader vocabulary. New Erasou update. More words, same chaos. 10 years ago, she had inquired about his unusual jolly mood. In response, he lashed out at her for taking him too easily. But then he returned to his old cheery mood and explained that his face is loosening up on its own. He explained that he couldn't help smiling at the thought of her promise the previous day. His smile has a mind of its own and it's obsessed with Mashiro. She was deeply touched by the realization that a child adored her so much. However, the little lad was so much absorbed in euphoria that he stumbled over the edge of the staircase despite her warning. Off he rolled down the stairs like a ball, to her horror. She quickly sprinted downstairs in a frenzy to check his well-being. Gravity has always been Erasou's greatest rival. Thankfully, only his ego was hurt, but then he accidentally bumped into the door and tripped on a stone, crashing straight into the bushes. He kept landing into mishaps one after another, and a distressed Mashiro sensed his excitement about marrying her. She decided to do something about the troubled situation since he kept putting himself in danger. She quickly helped him and bandaged his injuries. Step 1 of loving Erasou: keep a first aid kit at all times. Currently, she is worried that he might end up in the same situation since he re-proposed to her. But then it hits her that he is 18 and is mature. Unfortunately, Erasou stumbles down the stairs and falls flat on his stomach. She screams at him anxiously, urging him to act more like an adult now. Erasou, legally an adult, physically a disaster. As he stands by himself, she wonders about his well-being, but he is too excited to care, and expresses his intention to hold the ceremony in Hawaii. But recklessly he bangs his head on the door, and instantly Mashiro makes up her mind to stop him, just like she did in the past. She calls out for his attention and hesitantly expresses her fondness for calm and composed guys. The fastest way to make him calm? Threaten his romantic image points. Immediately, Erasou tries to compose himself, although it is not very easy for a jittery person like him. But, to her relief, he manages to freeze himself for the time being, just like he did in the past. She believes he should be more mindful now, but from past experience, she knows exactly how to handle him. Mashiro, certified Erasou handler, expert in chaos prevention. Mashiro calls out to a grown-up Erasou for some help. However, he is shocked to see child-sized Mashiro unable to reach the top shelf. He cannot believe that the old hag actually turned tiny. She urges him to hurry, but he wonders how she shrank. Erasou's brain. Error 404. Logic not found. She insists that she is the same as always and he has gone insane. A baffled Erasou helps her reach the shelf. While having dinner, she exhibits perfect table manners just like she always does, and Erasou frantically wonders whether he is hallucinating or someone is playing a prank. Next, she cheerfully offers him some dessert, and something crashes inside his brain. Cute plus dessert equals his ultimate weakness combo activated. Nevertheless, he decides to have dessert with her. He happily munches on the cookies that he finds very delicious. He notices some cookie crumbs around her mouth. Then she bites into a cookie using her small mouth, and he goes gaga over her cuteness. He's no longer eating cookies. Cookies are eating his sanity. He realizes that she is cute and beautiful as an adult, but her childlike innocence is quite attractive as well. Erasou suspects that if she is that attractive, then she might be hunted by the entertainment industry and face difficulties. However, he has this urge to protect her. Mashiro notices that he has been grinning on his own like a madman, and it appears that she is less considerate as a child. After the dessert session, she orders him to play with her. He decides to keep her company for a change. She screams in joy and hops ahead of him. He assumes with a grin that if they have a daughter, she might look like that. He grins sheepishly, scratching his head aimlessly, but then he gasps anxiously when Mashiro leaves his side and begins running here and there. Future dad mode unlocked. Panic edition. He wonders whether she changed her mind about playing, so she explains that she has spotted some weeds in the flower bed, since helping around the garden is also one of her jobs. Embarrassed, he offers to help as well, thinking that even a child like Mashiro is so responsible. He observes that even though she is sloppy, she does her work properly. He guesses that she has been that hardworking since the beginning. Meanwhile, Erasou is just trying to keep up with tiny productivity queen. After they finish pulling weeds, he points out her soiled clothes and reminds her to clean herself. She sighs and dusts herself. Afterward, he asks her what game she wants to play, so she suggests hide and seek. He is about to toss by using rock, paper, scissors. He should have known she'd choose the fun job and leave him the impossible one, but she insists that she wants to hide and wants him to be the seeker. 30 minutes have passed, but Erasou hasn't been able to find her. He puts the blame on her tiny size and his enormous house. He has scouted through all the hiding places where he used to hide as a child. Suddenly, a clanging sound comes from a closet, and he opens the door in sheer disbelief. It is revealed that the tiny tot, Mashiro, has dozed off while hiding. He cannot believe that she has sandwiched herself in such a narrow space. Soon he wakes her up and she complains that she has been waiting for so long. Even her complaints are travel size. He suggests she take a nap if feeling sleepy. To his agitation, she asks him to carry her to the bed. While holding her in his arms, he declares her a spoiled child. A flushed Mashiro leans towards his chest and giggles. Spoiled? Yes. Cute? Also yes. Resistance? Impossible. He wonders what she was doing in such a narrow space, to which she replies that she likes sleeping in tight spaces. Suddenly, he hears Mashiro calling him repeatedly, warning him that he will catch a cold if he sleeps here. He abruptly wakes up and is shocked to see a fully grown Mashiro leaning over him. It turns out that he has been dreaming all along. Plot twist. Brain DLC downloaded baby Mashiro without permission. He reveals that he fell asleep while going through her childhood album, the one he had forced her to bring from home. She is curious about his dream, so he mentions that in his dream, she had an affinity for tight spaces to sleep in when she was younger. Her eyes widen in shock, so he assures her that it was only a dream. But a puzzled Mashiro wonders about how he knows about her old habits. A shocked lad cannot believe that she was actually a spoiled brat as a kid. Character development speedrun. Completed. Once, Erasou orders Old Hag to bring some juice for him since he is feeling tired. Mashiro giggles at his adorableness, trots towards him and gently whispers in his ear, wondering whether he can do that by himself. Erasou is struck by lightning in her proximity, and he quickly springs up, claiming that he can do that. He quickly jumps down from the couch and dashes towards the kitchen. Confidence 100%, brain cells 0%. He pours himself a glass as she watches him, amused. But later he lay on his bed pouting like a fish, thinking that recently whenever he tried to order she leaned forward like that, making him completely blank, and then he was prompted to obey her like a robot. Quite embarrassed, he buries his face in his pillow, hating it every bit. He is adamant about stopping being abashed in her presence. His pride versus her proximity, score still 0 to 100. In fact, he wants to be a man, cool enough to make her heart pound. He gasps at his own brilliant idea and decides to execute it the next day. He is yapping to himself so loudly in his room that a passing Ruriko can hear him quite clearly from outside. The next day, he is all set to begin his mission cool, but he is still confused about how to become one. Step 1, be cool. Step 2, figure out step 1. But then it strikes him that fast-running boys can appear cool. So when he brings Mashiro to a park just to see him running, she is completely shocked. But when she watches him sprinting like a cheetah, she is quite impressed. Now, she has no idea why he decided to run all of a sudden, but she proclaims that he looks very cool. Erasou, sprinting for dignity since age 8. With a flushed smile, he agrees. Still, he is agitated because she doesn't look embarrassed, despite admitting to his coolness. In fact, he ended up looking like an abashed fool. Suddenly, a fried chicken advertisement catches his eye on TV that says, chomping on that meat can make him cooler. In no time, he is having those chicken drumsticks for dinner, to Mashiro's surprise. Advertising really does work on kids, but he aloofly keeps on chomping on the meat. Suddenly, she leans forward and wipes out chicken juice around his mouth, while giggling hard. A dumbstruck Erasou wonders whether she finds him foolish. The next day, he is adamant about embarrassing her by showing her his cool face. He trained so hard, and got wiped out by one napkin. The night before, he had practiced hard to look confident. He approaches her, sits beside her on the couch, and winks at her slyly. Tekito silently watches him, and her intense stare makes him shake like a leaf. A tomato-red Erasou admits in sheer frustration that it is mission impossible to be cool in front of her. He tried winking. She responded with a boss-level eye contact attack. After 10 years, Tekito and Erasou are strolling in a large nature park, and she expresses her astonishment at seeing it for the first time. Even Erasou is finding it peaceful. She smiles as she has been waiting for that date. He moves forward and, without looking at her, secretly confesses his love for her. New decade, same weakness. Mashiro.exe makes his cool mode crash. Blushingly, he admits that no matter how many years pass, it is hard to make her embarrassed. In fact, he goes weak on his knees upon seeing her. Mission cool status. Permanently failed, but love succeeded somehow.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.